Today's program is suitable for general viewing.
أهلا وسهلا ومرحبا بكم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome to live real talk show here at JamiaTV. My name is Zamzam Ahmed, and tonight we are going to talk about Matters Education. Matters Education, students in revolt, understanding the root causes of school strikes. They say education is key to life, is key to success. And we always go to school to gain knowledge, to get this education that we are talking about. But if the environment is not conducive, if the environment is not good for us, then there is nothing that we are going to do there in school. Therefore, I want us, or rather in tonight's episode of the Real Talk Show, we are going to talk about the root causes of school strikes, because this is something that we've been seeing recently happening in the country. And in studio, I am joined by Fadil Omete, who is an educator and also a youth activist. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Vipi hali Fadil?
Njema sana.
Karibu sana Jamia TV.
Thank you so much.
Now, because we are talking about education, then we are going to stick with the educator, the introduction of educator. Now, because we're talking about the root causes of school strikes, people have different opinions as to why these school strikes are increasing in the country. Maybe you as a teacher, perhaps, how is your interaction with students in school?
Thank you so much. First of all, thank you, Zamzam, for inviting me on your show. I really appreciate. And basing on the question you've really asked, actually I'm an educator, a facilitator at an institution in Langata called the Nairobi Muslim Academy. That's where I practice my career. And basing on my interaction with the students, actually I've had this great opportunity, because transitioning from an 844 learner to a CBE teacher, this is a very great opportunity for me, because I've been able to experience both the experiences in the 844 system and also in the CBE system. I can say that I'm really glad to be in this current generation, because the current learners, what they have, it's something that most of us, when you're being student, we didn't have much at large. Because you realize the system, it's more free, the system, it's more encouraging. Actually, it is learner-centered. And you realize the learners have the will, they have the freedom, they interact freely, basing they are freely to choose their learning areas as early as junior school. So I can say my interaction has been very great, and I really appreciate. I also am a youth advocate, I'm a youth activist. Basically, I champion for youth's interest, and also I'm a youth ambassador for a certain organization. It's called 1 Million Teachers, that deals with empowering educators, especially in versatile areas, to make sure that every learner has an opportunity to get education.
Okay. Now, because we are talking about students in revolts, there has been happening, or there has been a lot of strikes in schools. So, from your point of view, what do you think this is? Is it an indiscipline cases, or is it something different?
Well, personally, if you ask me, I think it's partly an indiscipline case, and also it is a cry for help. But we need to look at this issue at a broader way. Why are these learners causing this strike havoc? You realize, basically I'll say most of the percentage, it comes to the cry for help. Because we all believe that if under the Maslow's hierarchy, when all the needs are met, you realize that we human beings tend to be comfortable. So I believe that these learners are missing something, definitely, or they are being depressed in a certain way, or being victimized. That's why they are trying to bring out their frustration. Cry for help. Why do I say cry for help? Because I believe for it to reach there, we have a poor communication system. Another one, we have an academic burnout. And then finally, we have emotional or physical stress. But administrators or the stakeholders or the government might see it in another way. First of all, they'll say that this is a criminal offense.
Okay.
In another way, they'll handle it and they'll say that this is destruction of property. At the end of the day, they'll say it is loss of lives. So to me, I think it carries both ways, but we need to look at this matter in a broader way, not in one perspective, so that for us to understand the root cause. Because one thing we need to understand, Zamzam, is that this strike, it is not an actual reason that has happened today. It is results to preceding problems that have been occurring and occurring. So these learners have just waited for the opportunity moment to bring out their issues. So I believe it carries both ways.
Okay. Wow. That is really a tricky one. Now, because we're talking about understanding the root causes of school strikes, so for us in this episode, in tonight's episode, I want us to understand what are these root causes and maybe get to know the best solution that could be. So what are the main factors contributing to the increased cases of student strikes in schools today?
A very nice question, Zamzam. And I believe this is very essential basically for both stakeholders. And I want the viewers to understand that this one is not only a one-person problem.
Okay.
We have 4 people or 4 sectors in this education sector. We have the learner, we also have the parents, we have the teachers, and then we have the government.
Okay.
Everyone plays a critical role in these sectors. So for us to understand it, we need to look at it both ends. I'll pick it and say the first, you realize that this is not the first case we are having strike. The strikes actually approximately we are having around 600 schools that have participated since we had the first strike. And you realize in 2001, we had a school, it was on 21st March, we had a school called the Kiangoli Boys in Machakos.
Okay.
Actually, they happened to burn their dormitory, and unfortunately we lost 67 lives. Very recently, during the Moise era, 1993, you realize we had Bombolulu Girls, where actually also it was set on fire, and we lost 37 girls. What has happened? What has been addressed? Are the issues being addressed? Definitely no. Today you'll hear the government has formed a task force, it has done this and this, but we need the positive change. The first course I'll come to it, I'll talk about the academic pressure. You realize we need to face, that is the elephant in the room, because everyone has expectations. The parent needs the value for the money, the school, they need results, they need to make their name great, and also now the learner is caught in between. The teacher needs to achieve the objectives, because that is one of the career objectives.
And what does the student need?
Now that's what the student actually asks him or herself. What is it in for me? And you realize now we also need to ask ourselves that which generation are we dealing with? Because you realize in the previous generations where we had the baby boomers and the millennials, you realize that learning used to happen under fear. I'm sorry to say that, but that's how it used to happen. Where like the teachers were the overall say, the administration was the overall say. The learner had minimal opinion in that. But look at the CBE now. Look at the generational change. You are dealing with mostly Gen Zs and Generation Alpha, where you realize that these learners, they know their rights very well, unlike most of those who learned before, where these learners, they are very civilized. They know what is happening and they are up to date. And trust me, you'll realize that these learners know most of the things that even some of the educators don't know. Come to technology. So you realize that these learners, they access information easily, so we need to treat them differently. So we need to avoid that challenge of academic pressure. We need to set realistic goals, and also we need to make sure that we make our timetable flexible, where the learners, they don't feel a burnout during learning. The second one, I'll talk about dictatorial administration, where you realize that now we have the student body. But is it the real student body, or these one are just puppet student leaders? And it has even affected even up to the university sector, where you realize that these learners, okay, you have two perspectives. You realize we have the election, but now the popular candidates or the popular students that the learners want, the administration will make sure they don't pass, so that they choose the one they know that they can easily enforce their rules. Or in another way, the ones who will present themselves for nomination are not fit. Until now, the learners lose the interest for voting. And trust me, where are they learning this one? They are learning from our current government system, where they realize, okay, we are seeing people are voting, there's no change, there's no good way coming from it. So you realize that these policies are not addressed, where the schools, they make the decisions, and the learners are yet their subjects, and yet they are supposed to be the active members also. What are these policies we are talking about? For example, let's talk about simple things. For example, diet. The learners would prefer that, let's say, this week we want to eat chapati, but the school will say, we'll follow the same norm, there's no changing. Let's talk about entertainment schedules. As you are aware now, we have World Cup. A normal young man or a normal young boy is interested in football. The school should be very flexible to ensure, like, how can we accommodate the views? But if you go to many institutions, you'll realize they are very rigid. They'll tell you, we only have entertainment on what? Saturday. What if you don't have entertainment on Saturday, the football on Saturday? You realize it brings a challenge. A third course I'll talk about, this one now, it affects both sectors, especially the learners, where we have the drugs and substance abuse. This one, it's a challenge because and it mostly affects the boarding school, because you realize that these learners, in one way or another, they are able to smuggle drugs in the school. And scientifically, when a person is under the influence of drugs, they cannot make sound decision. So you realize that if they are intoxicated, they can be easily swayed away, and also in addition with peer pressure, you realize they tend to do what? To cause unrest and even ban the school. Finally, I'll talk about fragile and poor support system in school. This is a very big elephant in the room, and now we need to ask ourselves, what is the government doing about it? What's the administration doing about it? And also, what are the parents? Go to any normal school, you'll realize 0.001% they have the necessary guiding and counseling services. But what are the other schools doing? They take the active teachers, they give you the roles. They tell you, apart from being a mathematics teacher or an educator, you're going to be the head of guiding and counseling department. I've not done that area in my learning when I was in the school. So I don't have the necessary skill for that. And even though when you have that, the same teacher has to attend to classes or lessons. At what time will this teacher have enough time to handle what? These cases. And these cases are very common, especially in the current generation, where you realize learners are going through trauma, they're going through stress, emotional and mental disorders. So they need someone to address these issues urgently. And now you realize under communication, where we have poor communication system, you realize that if we are not able to understand each other, me and you, it creates a barrier such that now, apart from being teachers, teachers, facilitators, educators, and learners, it becomes us versus them. These learners, they change their viewership. They look at you as what? Not as their mentor, but someone who's not helping them to achieve what they want. So we need to look at those poor structural system. And finally, you have poor communication. This one, it cuts across the administration. For example, let's talk of a very small issue. On a certain entertainment day, let's say the cable for TV burns out. Of course, the learners will request and tell the administration, unfortunately, this has happened. We need help here. The administration will say, we'll take care of that. Or the response will be very low and not satisfying. So these learners will tend to ask, what are we supposed to do? And then they also look at what or emulate what is happening. Sorry to say this, but if you look at our Kenyan system, the only way the government listens to its people is through demonstration. So these learners will think, okay, we've tried to process you guys, you are not helping us. Let's strike. And funny enough, when they strike, you realize now the school will come and buy that cable for the TV. So you realize that the administration is validating violence. The only way to address issues is what? Violence. So the administration needs to look at different way of approaching, make sure you have a proper communication system. The one, communication without feedback is not complete communication. Make sure that the communication, it's reached out, and also the learners are able to understand and relate with what you're trying to say.
Okay, now still on matters of communication, when you say poor communication system between the students and the school administration, most of the time we hear these phrases. Students, when they break for holiday, they tend to complain things that are not right for them kwa wazazi, you see. Oh, mwalimu hatusikizi. Oh, anatupea kazi mingi. Oh, we don't eat very well. Oh, this and that. So there are so many complaints. So from your point of view or from your perspective, do you think these complaints are real or they're just dramas?
Well, at some point I agree. These complaints are very real. Because me and you, from our perspective of life, we know very well when a human being, according to the hierarchy law under Maslow's, when we are comfortable, when all our needs are met, we don't tend to complain. So these learners are also human beings, and they'll tend to talk when they feel discomfort. And one of the challenges we've talked about is poor infrastructure and poor sanitation. First of all, since you've talked about it, I want to send my condolences to the parents and the girls we lost, the 16 girls at Utumishi Academy. It's very unfortunate. You know, a parent invest in kids, and apart from home, the school should be a safe place for the learners. So it's very unfortunate we lost the kids, and also the parent from Nakuru who was going to pick her daughter. I send my condolences, and the country continues to mourn with them. But now, coming to Utumishi girls, first of all, we've talked about these complaints. If you follow the case very well, you'll realize that let's talk about the dormitory. The school, it was supposed to enroll 650 learners. That was the initial arrangement with the government, 650 slots. But at the end of the day, they enrolled 800 learners. What leads to what? Strain on resources. But now when this learner raises these issues, what will the parent say? Are you getting the education? Are the teachers coming to class? That's what is necessary. They don't know that the main aim of education is not to get the papers. And that's why you realize in the old system it has been even a very big challenge. Learners are finishing students, graduates, but they cannot think critically on what to do. Basically, they were told, get the papers, move out. But now this education is supposed to be holistic. Talk about the mental, talk about the physical, and talk about the what? Now the classroom setup. So I believe these areas, these issues are very valid, and I advise the parents, when such issues are raised, take time to listen to the learner, because you are once a learner. Take time to listen to them and try to validate. The ones that make sense, follow up with the administration and try to make sure with it, because any other business, you realize that the learners are the clients. And we have one core value that talks about customer satisfaction. So if the learner, him or herself, is not satisfied, then what is the administration doing, or what is their role, and the teachers and the government? So I believe the issues are both ways, but mostly the parents needs to listen to the learner, because this is the only time they have to catch up with the learners and see the other side of the story.
Now I'll come to that one. When you talked about the student welfare, the mental health, or even the academic stress. Now, on matters of communication, you've emphasized on communication, good communication.
True.
So do you think, or what's the importance of communication in every affairs of our lives, and especially in school system?
That's a very good question, When Allah created us, you realize we have animals and we have human beings. The only difference between animals and human beings, it's because we human beings, we can communicate verbally. We have other animals that have cognitive thinking more than even human beings. Talk about the chimpanzees. So you realize communication, it's a very basic factor when you come to day-to-day life activities. That is the only way that I can be sure of you expressing my emotions and feelings. I can look at your face, I misjudge you, but when you tell me I'm feeling this way and this way, it's very, very important. Why does communication is very important? Even the main core business of school in learning, 90% it occurs through verbal and communication. So most of the issues need to be heard. And that's why you realize that we need to do more of the listening and less of the talking. Because the more we talk, we'll not be able to listen. So I think in school setup, it's very important, because you realize that now these learners, you know, the interesting part, teachers are part of the parenting group. You realize that the parent will bring the learner in PP1 or in PP2. The parent will take the learners after 10 years. The learner is in grade 8. Actually, 70% of the time in this learner's life, it is spent in school. So the teacher needs to learn more about the learner, needs to interact with them. Hear these issues. And you realize the advantage with these learners, the way I've told you, I've interacted with many of these learners at one point, and you realize these learners, they know very many things. Even that they bypass us. These learners are very sharp, and they are able to know. They cannot be right every time, But now it is your work to tell them, as much as you are thinking this way, we are supposed to help you this way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I want us to take a short break, but we'll be back with more. It's best that we understand the reason as to why we have so many school strikes today, currently. And also, as part of this conversation, maybe you can share the best solution you think that can be used to end this school strike. Therefore, still be there for the second segment, inshallah, as we unpack the different solutions that are with Mwalimu here.
JamiaTV, beacon for the nation.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا نودي للصلاة من يوم الجمعة فاسعوا إلى ذكر الله وذروا البيع ذلكم خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون.
Enyi mlioamini, munapoitwa kuhudhuria swala ya Ijumaa, fanyeni haraka kuikimbilia, muache biashara zenu, hilo ni bora ikiwa mwelewa.
Isikilizeni kwa umakinifu khutba ya Ijumaa
ili uzidi kujenga imani yako na kupata faida nyingi ya siku hii.
Coming to you every Friday from Jamia Mosque, Nairobi.
Live on
JamiaTV.
Verse of the day.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
المال والبنون زينة الحياة الدنيا والباقيات الصالحات خير عند ربك ثوابا وخير أملا.
Pearls of wisdom.
Abu Huraira radiallahu anhu narrated that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, "Whatever I have commanded you, do it, and whatever I have forbidden you, refrain from it."
JamiaTV, beacon for the nation.
Welcome back, and thank you so much for keeping it at JamiaTV. This is live Real Talk Show, and we continue with our conversation on students in revolts, understanding the root causes of school strikes. Now, last thing that was said was about do more listening and less talks. Sometimes there are phrases that we hear, but we tend to not understand. We just assume and look it at the upper meaning, the meaning that is known. Now, I would like Mwalimu here to help us understand, what does this phrase mean? Do more of listening and less talk.
Well, that is a very simple phrase that many people misunderstand about it. Well, but since we are talking about the education perspective, I would like to physically and mostly focus on the curriculum. You realize that we had a shift in the curriculum, though it is still in its piloting stage, but you realize that we have to learn and work with it. You realize that one of the core values of the CBE, now it is CBE, it is learner-centered, where you realize that you are actually nowadays, they are not called teachers, they are called facilitators, from the word facilitate. You just guide the learner on some few, and then the learner will be able to work out. After working out, the learner is supposed to give you the feedback. So you realize that at the end of the day, you play a very minimal role. And this one is very efficient because you realize that in the old system or the other methods, it was the old lecture method. The teacher comes, the facilitator comes, he or she talks for around 30 minutes without the learners. When the learner tries to talk, it's a problem. So you realize learning does not occur. But now due to this feedback, and you realize that now this learning, it focuses more on real life examples or scenarios. You cannot know everything. Let's say I come from Nairobi. We have instances that I'll have to refer to Mombasa, Kisumu, or even Kakamega County. You realize that this class is made up of different learners who come in different places. When you talk about this substance, talk about the mountains, talk about the lakes, I'll need someone who is in that area to give us the real what? The real example. So I'll really emphasize on that, and I really encourage the educators and all the stakeholders to listen more, because that's the only way we can communicate. The moment you listen, you'll be able to make sound judgment and also address the issue at hand.
Other factors that people think is making these school strikes to accelerate is the social media. How is social media a factor contributing to the increased cases of school strikes?
Well, social media, in my own perspective, I'll say that social media, it comes in two scenarios. First of all, it has the advantages side and also the disadvantages. The challenge is that how are our learners using it? In some scenarios, you realize that most of the learners, they use online tools for research, which is very good. But now we have something called the peer pressure. And you realize also we have now the coming up of these social media networks, especially the one that is mostly being used, it's the TikTok. You realize most of these things, they are trending on TikTok. And you realize how is it being a factor in the school unrest and strike. First of all, you realize that these learners, they communicate. And this communication, they happen under the nose of the teachers. But now, since these administrators, they are using the traditional methods of supervision, they are not be able to know. These learners are communicating in coded text, such that even if you look at this text, you'll not be able to understand it. It's only the intended receiver who will be able to understand. So you realize they are able to coordinate, they are able to plan, they are able to assemble these materials of causing unrest in school through social media. Remember, they are in one room, the ones they are talking, they are in the other side. Another thing you realize, we have the copycat, where you realize that it's a very big challenge, especially on social media, the peer pressure and the influence. Someone is doing something because the other one has done it. We had the Utumishi case. The learners complained, they say that, oh, we had poor infrastructure condition, we had academic pressure, the exams were coming back to back. And now the other schools, they took hit on it, even those that don't have those challenges. They say that, if these are doing, why are we not doing it? And you could see those clips resurfacing online. They give the warnings. Actually, even learners could write on papers and they will put it there. They're saying, the others have done it, now it is our time to do it. So it's a very big challenge. And also now you realize it also affects them because they want to have that fulfillment. We have done it. We want our name to be out. We have done it, and we are also among those ones who have carried out this practice. So I think social media, it has affected us negatively coming to that sector of school strikes, and it has really caused much harm in mobilizing and also spreading the message to enhance that decisive challenge.
Now, earlier on in our first segment, I mentioned that during holidays, students tend to complain a lot about the school to their parents. asking them, nitoe hii shule. This is something that has been there, you know. Wanafunzi wanaambia wazazi wao, mimi sitaki hii shule, nataka unitoe nipeleke ingine, hivi na hivi. There is a lot that is happening. Now, when we talk about the student welfare, their mental health wellness, their academic stress, so are schools really doing enough to address these issues, the students' welfare, their mental health wellness, and their academic stress?
Well, thank you so much for that question, and that one I would disagree 100%. Okay. And one thing you need to take a survey on, you realize that this challenge of school strike, it's mostly experienced in public school, okay, and not in private school. We'll come to that later. Why? Public schools, first of all, they are underfunded. Okay. If you look under the Education Act, before the President of the Republic of Kenya amended it, you realize that each student capitation was 22,000. Okay. But now under this one, it has been reduced to 16,000. And you realize that the same needs are the same. The economic status are still the same. The prices of the substances are still the same. So first of all, the schools are under the strain. This money, second of all, it's coming late. It's coming at the second term, the money that should have come during first term. Okay. So actually, as much as the administrators are being blamed of some of the parts, but the government, I blame strongly the government on the policies, the funding and everything. A normal classroom setup, it's supposed to have a minimum or maximum of 40 students. Okay. But look at what is happening in our public school. You'll walk from here, or you'll move from this place and go to a place called you'll go to in Busia County, a place called, have some schools, another school, it's called Kiriko. You'll go to a class and you'll find you have 69 students or 70 students. These learners are attended by one teacher. So you realize it's a very big challenge. We have strain on resources. The capitation is low. This one, when the capitation is low, the services are low. Look at the quality of the food the learners are eating. It's not even the quantity, the quality. And you realize now, they believe that we don't deserve this. Then the other thing, it goes around even on the learning materials. The books, they don't reach the school in time. Okay. We go to other schools, they don't even have the laboratories. Go to Northeastern, you'll be surprised the learners are learning under trees. So these policies that the government is emphasizing on, they need to cut across to make sure that schools have adequate funding. We had a proposal by some of the leaders, let's make the education free, so that the parents can also be able to chip in other things. So you realize it affects, and it affects a lot. And then without forgetting another factor, we talk about the funding one. So you realize we have the issue of the funding by the government. So I would advise that the money reaches the school in time, and also it will be able to build more structures, especially the sanitation, the dormitories, and all that. Yeah.
Okay. Now, as we come to something else, I know we've looked into understanding, and also we want us to look at the solution, the best solution, the possible solution. I know one that you've said is the government should ensure that the funding comes in on time. So what practical measures can schools, can parents and students take to prevent strikes and promote peaceful conflict resolutions? And I know that a school is made up of different people. Other than the students, the parents and the teachers, we also have the government, the Ministry of Education. We have the Board of Management, among other stakeholders involved. So what can be done?
Well, definitely, first of all, the way you've said, we have 4 players in this sector, and each sector needs to be addressed independently so that we are able to face this challenge. First of all, everyone needs to play his or her role. Sorry to say this, but at some point, you realize that some of the parents have delegated their parental responsibilities. Why am I saying this? You realize in the old days, the parent would be able to monitor and take care of this learner through disciplinary measures and also raising and instilling morals in him. You'll be surprised in the current generation, the learner, the students or the kids are being raised by the house help or the nannies. I agree, because we have to look for money on also how to support the learners and look for their basic needs. But as we are not supposed to be absent parents. We need to be present to make sure that we guide these learners so that they should be able to see how things are done. So the parents should roll up their sleeves. They take responsibility. Even from the government recommendation, they said that you cannot put this one on the administrators. Let the parent discipline their kids. Let the parent guide their learners. Another thing I'll talk about, it's very simple. The only challenge we have here, it is we have a complainant and we have someone who's not able to listen to the complaints. We are not saying that these things, they don't happen. But if the communication challenge would have been addressed more effectively, the strike would have reduced to a lower rate. We have other challenges. We might have fire outbreak. We might have other challenges also. There are accidents. Where does it leave us? What is the response of the government to this? We have quality control surveyors. What are they doing? The government need to emphasize that, because they are paying those people more money. You realize in public school, these people, the ISOS, they only come once in a term. But this challenge, they happen day to day time. So the government needed to emphasize, if adding more employees on the same, to make sure that they take these responses, and they need to work on them. They should not take the challenges of first term, they bring a feedback on term 3. So they need to work on them to make sure that these learners' grievances are heard and also are addressed. The other thing, the schools and the government, they needed to invest in the guiding and counseling structures. Trust me, the current learners are facing very many challenges. And these challenges, they are not from the learners alone. They are coming even from the home, where you realize that a learner might come from a broken family. The parents are having challenges. Actually, the safe place for this learner is at school. So the learner coming and finding the situation is not unsuitable, you realize they may tend even to come and join the drug abuse club, and they may result to that thing. So the school needs to invest in the guiding and counseling system through a proper budget by the government, by employing more personnel to make sure, and they should be trained, not just getting teachers and telling them that you'll do this and this. Another resolution I'll talk about, it's time, I think we need to look at the first aid measures and the drilling methods in case we have this emergency. Because the way you say first aid, it is a basic necessity and basic measure. But you realize 1 out of 10, you realize it's only one person in every, even don't go away, even in households, only one person knows about the first aid measures. Because you realize you can't be there every time. Can these learners, we are not raising these learners to be police guarded every time. They need to take care of themselves because they are growing. So they need to be taught these measures. They need to be trained so that when in case we have these challenges, they can be able to help. A good example is the one in under Utumishi girls, where you realize that during the fire commotion, one student tried to jump out of the window and realize she had broken limbs and broken hands. So it's a challenge because for her, it was safety first, not even the way of approach. So the school needs to train the teachers through the government. The school needs to train the learners on why this thing happens. And I'm glad I happened to visit one of the institutions in Embu County, a certain school called Nyangwa Boys. You realize that the school has a partnership with the Red Cross, where the school formed the first aid club. Now the staff of the Red Cross, they normally come to the school every time to train learners on the first aid measures. And you realize the learners are picking it up and they are able to help it. Another thing I'll talk about is let's have clear communication systems. Let's not have the learners or the student leaders who are puppet to the administration. Let's have barazas. You realize it's very interesting. Here in Nairobi, you'll realize we normally have the Kamkunjis, we have the Jivanjis, where people just come up and air their issues. Why don't we have that in school? Such that now these learners, they come and now they talk. Hey, how do you see this games department? Is it helping us? They'll say, okay, I think we should do this and this. When they air out that way, they will be able to solve these issues.
You know, what's the student fear, if I may say, is what will the teacher say? If I say this is not the way I want or the way we want, we air it out, then the response from the teachers or the involved department, if it's sports, if it's entertainment, if it's the different departments, wataona kama watachukiwa for the rest of their school life until wamalize.
True. That's another challenge where you realize that people have made it a norm that you are not supposed to complain when you are being suppressed or doing something. But I disagree with it. It's very wrong. Because you realize that if I don't like something or I don't enjoy it, I have to speak out. And that's why I said we need to do more of the listening. Let's give these learners an opportunity. Actually, it is, you know, one thing people don't understand. This learner will not remember, after 5 years or 10 years, will not remember how you taught him or her about the rocks, about the adjectives, about the adverbs, how you taught him about the integers. But this learner will remember how you treated him or her.
Definitely.
What is the strong message there? Actually, we have learners who just come to school because they have their favorite teachers. I just want to see Mr. So or Mrs. So. So it is that environment you create as an educator that will even affect these learners to learn or not to learn. And we have another thin layer that is being submerged there. What about the welfare of the teacher? Because teachers are also human beings. Yeah, an educator might be going through stress or some challenges, but he or she is expected to deliver and act as if nothing is happening. How are they affected? You realize mostly it's economic issues. That's why I'm putting back to the government. Make sure the teachers are very well enumerated. They are well motivated to make sure that they deliver effectively. We talked about training. I think the government should also focus on the retooling. It is happening under the junior secondary system, but we need more and more of it. They are focusing on the curriculum. Let's talk about the physiological factors. Because apart from the academic pressure, we have other underlying issues, the way you've said, mental and all that, that lead to that. And finally, let's talk about now the government. The government needs to do more for self-sensitization on these challenges. Make sure they train the learners and the teachers to be up to the task. And finally, under the solution, well, we need to teach our learners about accountability. It's very, very important. And you realize now in the old model, you could, a student will go to school, would come back and take care of his or her siblings and still be able to go back to the school. But the current learners, they don't care. They don't care. They don't care. It's not even multitasking. They don't care about the decisions they make and their consequences. So they need to learn that this thing, learning, you are not doing it for me. You are doing it for yourself. Your parent has invested in this, and the measures you are doing. It's very unfortunate. Those culprits, or those the learners that resulted to the killing of the 16 girls. You realize they'll go to juvenile. They'll face their sentence. They become adults. They'll be transferred to the prison. That's where now it hits that it was an individual decision. Now that's where accountability kicks in. So the parents should also emphasize on learners and tell them it should be black and white, that they know if you do this, this is what you expect. If you do this, this is what you expect. And that's where also our parents have slightly failed on their duties, where we realize that discipline has changed measures. When a child is growing, when he or she cries for something, instead of being told that it's supposed to be done this and this, it's given, he or she is given chocolates, and they say, relax, mommy, we'll take care of it. Your iPhone has broken, relax, mommy. And it's not broken, it's the child who has broken it. We'll get you another one. So we need to take accountability. The learners should be accountable for their decision. And also they should understand that we have more other civilized way of addressing issues. It's not all about violence. Talk about the suggestion box. And also they need to elect their leaders who will speak for them rather than to go and dine with the administration, because that is the challenge. And the funny enough, when you look at these victims of these challenges, most of them are the student leaders who dine with the administration. Very unfortunate. They made their bed, and that's why it's the challenge. But the moment you address that, the learners be accountable, the government, the parents, the teachers also play their role by make sure they nurture these learners to be holistic members of the society. I personally believe that this challenge will reduce immensely.
Okay, now I know time is up, but I can spare a minute. You give us your parting shot, generally.
Well, my parting shot is I had one of the leaders started blaming the government, and one of the leaders started blaming the stakeholders. And actually is a well-renowned member of parliament. She was saying that when the fire was happening, where was the dome matron, where was the school principal? You realize that when we have necessary measures, because these learners are growing, they can take care of themselves. So these issues, we should not look at it lightly, because these are not the recent issues that are affecting. Remember we said, when communication or you don't have necessary feedback and timely feedback, you realize it crosses unrest. It causes distress. So the moment it will build up, it will result to a tremendous. And you are very well known because you reside here in Nairobi. You saw the June 2024 demonstration. Yeah. The Gen Zs were trying to air out the issues. The government was not listening. Until now, it was not more tolerable. That's why they decided, let it be. We are going to the street. So these learners, when you try to listen to these issues and try to solve them, because they are lasting issues, it's not that they have started yesterday. Let's sit down, let's have a proper talk, proper measures on how we can address it, and also to see how it works out. Another one recommended that the learners need to be guarded, like policemen, until the night. It doesn't work that way. When you have proper measures, you realize that these measures will be well addressed. Let's have open communication. Freely talk where we cannot victimize each other, be the teachers or be the learners or be the administration. Open communication where we can easily interact. Let's engage each other in decision making. Because the challenge is, the student leaders will say, we suggested this, but the school decided this. You see? And it even starts from small things. Talk about the school trips. The school will say, okay, let the learners suggest where do you want to go. Then the school will come and say, the learners, we want to go to Mombasa. But the school will come and say, we are not going to Mombasa, we are going to Nakuru. No explanation. How do you expect the learner to respond? So we should address such like issues, and then we make sure that we also be flexible. We reduce the academic pressure. You know, for me, it doesn't make sense to me because these learners are blessed differently. Being an educator, and that's the beautiful idea about the CBE. These learners, the one who's interested, has talent in other areas, he or she will do that and will be able to work on that, rather than forcing this learner to perform in this, and actually that's not his or her interest. Others, they can pursue talent. So I believe when we address and go through those measures, we will be able to help these learners and make them realize that we are not against them. Actually, we are trying to help them to achieve their ideas.
I bet to end the session up to that point, I know this is really a very serious matter to talk about, and it requires more time. But at least most have been understood. Most of the things that you've said, imeeleweka, and I believe it is well taken by the people that are watching us. And you know, I know people don't like us bringing about this issue, is demonstration and strikes. Is it the best solution? Najua watasema watoto, ni watoto, no, it's not the best solution. But young people will say, hiyo ndo solution. But we should be asking ourselves, is it the best solution? And this is a question I'm leaving it with you. Figure it out, and then maybe you can share your comments, your opinions on the comment section of, or rather use the numbers of the station. You tell us. And let's meet tomorrow for the Muslim Insight Show. This was Live Real Talk Show, and I have been your host, Zamzam Ahmed. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.